Hello guys, and a very warm welcome to this second lecture for section 2, where we'll basically be covering importing data into SAS. So, there's 4 lectures in this session. This one's basically to do with data import. Now, there's 3 main ways to create SAS data. So, via manual data entry inside a data step with the data line statement, using the SAS Enterprise Guide import wizard, or then an in-file statement inside the SAS data step, or with proc import. Remember, there's some color coding when it comes to SAS programs. There's some highlighting that takes place. It's important to bear this in mind. Okay, so in terms of manual input using a data line statement, so in this example here, I'm creating the prod_datalines dataset under the Udemy library. I need to specify the length of, say, a variable. If I need to allocate more than 8 bytes, I then need to specify via an input statement the variables. With the data lines, I specify that I'm going to be entering the data rows manually, and then with the run statement I just close off the data step. So this data step will be creating this udemy.prod_datalines dataset. Okay, so this is really the first option, useful when you haven't got lots of observations really. Now, another option is to use the import wizard from SAS Enterprise Guide, which has a built-in import functionality and will guide you through the different steps and options when it comes to importing your data. A third option is to also use a data step. In this case, I'm creating the product_types data set. This is really similar to what we saw during the lecture where we went through our first SAS task. So an in-file statement, an in-format statement specifying the formats of the incoming data, and then an input statement to tell SAS the types of variables. Do note that in this particular case, I've got the limited sensitive data, so DSD. I specify the limiter with the DLM option under the in-file statement, and there you go, I've got the basic parameters that define my incoming data. Okay, so also a very valid way to import your data. Now, it's just a few notes on formatting data for SAS. We've briefly touched upon already on the missing data, so use a dot rather than a blank space. It's really useful. And also do note that many SAS procedures remove observations with missing values when analyzing the data. Okay, so this is important to bear in mind. Now, if you've got multiple observations on one line, use the double at the end of the input line, such as that example, so that you can read your data with multiple observations per line. Just a word of caution on the handling of dates and times. Make sure you use your appropriate data formats to read in your dates. Do go through the different formats in the SAS documentation, and the similar thing for times. Okay, so just be wary of the incoming formats. Remember, the difference between an in format and a format statement. It's also important. Okay. Now, proc import is an alternative to the in-file statement. Make sure you close the file that you're importing from before attempting to use proc import. Again, the syntax quite simple. Proc import, and then the path to the file using the data file option. Then the out data set that you want to generate. DBMS, that's the database management system. In this case, you just want to use the option DLM, which stands for delimited data set, and then specify the limiter. Okay. Now, once you've imported your data using any of the previous options, you want to check your results, and for this you can use proc print with the OBS equals whatever number of observations you want to print out option, and you can also use proc contents, which gives you lots of information on the variables, the operating system, the size of your data set. It's a really useful SAS procedure to inspect your data. Okay. Now, these two, you should use them fairly, hand in hand, and so very often people will run a proc print followed by a proc contents to inspect the first few observations of a data set, and then the the actual contents of the data set. And there you go, an example of the proc contents output. We won't go into an awful lot of detail, but you can see there you've got your data set name, the number of observations, the type of SAS engine generating that, when it was generated. Then a bit further down you've got the engine or the host's information, do resort to it very often, please. So that's pretty much it, guys. So I will see you in the next